All right, so I just want to take a quick opportunity to talk about the upcoming 4.18 release of the ArcGIS API for JavaScript. So, with the 4.18 release, it's kind of cool because we no longer have a dependency on any dojo inside the API. We're going to have a beta release of ArcGIS Core, which is going to be the ES modules of the API that you can play with. There's some documentation on that on our feedbacks next repo on GitHub, as well as the next version of the arcgis-js-api. So you can try out some 4.18 stuff now. If you have issues, you can always let us know. My phone's all beeping, sorry. Let me lower this volume. Bam. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, there's cool stuff out there. You can always try out the next release. So once 4.18 is out, this will start being 4.19, right? I mean, yeah, that's just the way it goes. But anyway, I just want to talk about that because the reason I'm talking about it is that because we don't have any Dojo modules being used inside the API, we no longer have a need for, with our Webpack plugin, to use the Dojo Webpack plugin. And plus, there's a couple other things that could be different. Well, not really different, but if you're doing local builds to be aware of when you're working with the JavaScript API, one of them applies to, let me come over here. If you go to the ESM samples, we've got some documentation like the Webpack thing here. I think I got something else written up here. Anyway, the main, oh, here it is. So the key to remember when you're working with 4.18 and forward and you do local builds is that there's an assets folder inside the package that you need to copy out to your deploy build. And the assets folder is going to have all of the CSS, fonts, images, any kind of static assets that are going to be needed during runtime for the API to work, right? Locale files, those are going to be in there. So any different language files are going to be in there. So with the, and that doesn't apply just to core. That's going to be the arcgis-js-api package as well. So the next version of the Webpack plugin, which you can find the documentation for in this branch called Update for ESM, is not just going to be for the core package. It's also for the arcgis-js-api package. But the Webpack plugin no longer has a dependency in the Dojo Webpack plugin, which means we don't have to worry about any kind of AMD stuff in terms of having to do that kind of trickery we did where we basically fed our AMD modules into the Dojo Webpack plugin and then took its output and dumped it into the Webpack pipeline. It was a lot of stuff happening there. So as you can see here, this works with both the API package and the core package. Some things are different. You can still specify locales, and it'll basically just filter out the locale files to get copied over in the assets folder. And it still manages loading images and stuff like that as well. It's still using like URL loader and file loader. These would, for Webpack 5, be asset resources of some type. They wouldn't, I don't think they need the loaders anymore. But just to have some kind of backwards compatibility for Webpack 4, I hope. We'll still be using these loaders for now. But yeah, so if you look at the actual code for this, which you can always look at, it's on GitHub. Sorry, here we go. So the main thing that we do, I mean, this is the index file. There's a lot of stuff happening there. But if you look at the lib folder and the required plugins, which is where the stuff you could do on your own would be, is where we do the copy of the assets folder, right? So it's going to use a copy Webpack plugin. It's going to set some glob options. So it's not going to copy this websyn spec folder, which you don't really need at runtime. It's not going to copy these SAS files, right? Because you won't use SAS files at runtime. You can still build the SAS and you'll get CSS output, but you don't need the actual SAS files at runtime. And then the locales. So this is going to set you up so you can specify the locale files you want, so you're not copying all the JSON over if you don't need it. I mean, it's kind of recommended that you let them all get copied anyway, because even if you don't support a certain locale, the API does. So it's kind of nice if someone uses your app, maybe parts of your app aren't translated, but our widgets would be. for example, right? So it's kind of nice if you just let all the locales get copied over. They're not that big. I mean, space is cheap, people. Come on. So I just want to talk about when you migrate, right? So here is a demo app. This is out of the JS API resources repo. It's the Webpack demo. This is what it looks like. I'm going to go and update this to the new versions of the Webpack plugin. So let's do this. ArcGIS Webpack plugin, and the next version for the arcgis-js-api. So install both of those. One thing to note, the Webpack plugin will no longer have it will no longer install the API for you. You need to install the plugin, and then you can install the API or ArcGIS core, depending which one you want to use. But if you just want to quickly, so the core is still going to be beta at 4.18. It's not a full release because there's still some things that we're working on. But the JS API is, I mean, that's the release. That's a release that we do every time we release that package, and it's like a full-fledged supported release, right? So that's kind of, if you don't want to move to a beta right away, you can just stick with the JS API and you'd be good to go. Now it is AMD, right? So they're deployed as AMD, but it's okay. Webpack can consume AMD. You just don't get all of the tree shaking that you would normally get using something like the core, which is ES modules, right? So with that installed, I don't really need to change too much. If I go to my Webpack config, the reason I don't need to change any of my code is that I've already got an alias set up pointing to the arcgis-js-api package for Esri. And I've already got my tsconfig to consume the typings for that. What I can do is I can change the module here. I don't need AMD anymore. I can do like ESNext now. Save that. And if, one thing I want to do is that we don't need this config TS anymore. You used to need this if you were with 4.17 because we had to load the workers from the CDN because we couldn't really build them with Webpack, with AMD and the Dojo Webpack plugin and everything. You can get rid of this now. The workers are going to be in the assets folder. We're going to load them from there. And so in the index.ts, I can get rid of this import the config. Don't need that. I do need a change. Why is that complaining? Every now and then I get this tsconfig error in VS Code. I'm only using VS Code here, so it's easier for me to navigate around and for you to see what file structure and everything, or else I'd just be in Vim and it would be like super easy. So, okay, so in the SAS file, I need to change this a little bit. So, remember I mentioned the assets focus. We're going to point it to assets/Esri. So I'll copy that. Oops. Esri theme. There we go. All right, let's copy that and save it. Paste, save it. And I shouldn't need to change anything else here. Index is fine. Index HTML is fine. You see I'm still pointing here because I'm aliasing my Esri to the arcgis-js-api. And now if I just run this again, that's going to try and open a new tab. It's okay. I'm going to hard reload here. And bam, everything works. Come over here, it's still, you can see here it's copying stuff over from my new arcgis-js-api next package in here, and good to go. So this is just a sample of how you can upgrade without having to rewrite any of your code. You might have to change your configuration in Webpack a little bit, but other than that, you're good to go. Now, what if you want to remove the core? Well, okay, you're bold. Now, I don't care if it's a beta. I'm going to go ahead and do it, right? So, balls out. Let's do it. So, I'm going to go ahead and do install ArcGIS core. There we go. And I'll make one note with TypeScript here that I think you need to do. I had to do it when I was making sure that everything worked here. But basically, you need to either install the typings so that you get the Esri typings, or I mean, in this case, I'm going to get away with it because I got the JS API package in here. Otherwise, I would install the typings before I see when they come out, so that TypeScript is going to be happy with stuff happening in here. But it's okay. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change this to ArcGIS core. All right. And then I don't know if those paths work if I do this. I've never tried this inside of a SAS files like this. So let me try it. Since I'm already aliasing in webpack, that might actually just work like that. So that still works. Okay, let's run it. See what happens. I don't need a new window. Let's just go ahead and refresh this one. No errors here yet. Oh, hey, look at that. So yeah, the webpack resolve works for SAS files too. I didn't know. I was going to type ArcGIS core in there. But yeah, there we go. Everything's good to go. I'm now using core. I did not have to rewrite any of my code. And like I said, all you need to do is make little updates to your webpack config in here. Don't even need to change the plugin if you're not doing anything funky in here, right? I think the locale signature, the API for that is same as it was before. Just works a little differently under the hood. So yeah, that's how you do that. Tweak your SAS files if you're using that, or just regular CSS. So you have the assets path in there and you're good to go. I'm still pointing to Esri. Like I said, if I'm using the core package, but I want to use Esri alias in my app, I think you do need to point to the typings for the API. But that's what I want to share today. Get you guys started and ready to migrate over to 4.18, whether you're going to use core or the regular API package. Thanks a lot.